Hello. Hello, hello. I'm finally here. Sorry I'm a little bit late. A little bit late. Anyway, hello. Let's see. Hello, Peggy and Julie. Joan. Terry. Starla. Starla, you have some of the best pictures on Instagram. If you don't follow Starla on Instagram, you should, because she posts the most beautiful photography, like everyday life kind of things. So you should follow her. You really should. Terry, I don't know if I said hello to you, but hello, hello. That's it. We're here. Sorry, I was running a little bit late today. Yes. It's a crazy day today. Crazy. It is so gray here. So gray outside. I am not even kidding. It's like, whew, we are into fall. Anyway, I hope you guys are good. I'm a little warm. But I'm here. Oh, the hair is what it is. Anyways, good to see you all. So, are you guys here? Oh, there we go. I scrolled back. That's what happened. Hi, Shoo. Oh, you're welcome. It's all true. Jane? Is that Jane? Welcome, welcome. Do I know you? I don't know if I do, but I don't recognize your name, so I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here. All right, so it is Friday. Now, this coming week on Thursday is Thanksgiving here in the United States, which is where I am. And we are having company, and so I don't know that I will be streaming Friday. Pretty unlikely unless we do some test streaming that day. So don't count on me being here next Friday. I'll be here Monday night at 7 Eastern. I will be here then, but maybe, most likely, maybe, I don't know, not on Friday. There you go. Anyway, okay, so let's see. I have things to tell you, but we will save that. I was painting this week, getting things ready to do stuff with you so you don't have to watch every little detail on the painting. Because I've done every little detail on the gnomes, just the colors that change. But anyway, so my space here is just like, it. Do you know how it is? It gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Thank you, Joan. Thank you. Yeah, so my space has gotten quite small. And so I'm trying to move things over so I have a little bit more space here. Anyway, it's good to see you all. It is Friday. It is Friday. I have a meeting, an appointment about 20 minutes, 25 minutes away from here at not long after I'd get finished streaming. So hopefully I don't have to cut it short, but I might. A smidge. We'll see. So one of the things I finished this week is, you'll recognize him because we started him together, is the illustration of Clarence. So here he is finished, and this one I'm okay with. This one I like. And so we're gonna roll with him. The other one that I did was this one, and he's okay. It's not a problem. He's okay, but I like this one better. And so he is probably the one we're going to go with. Anyway, so he's all done. And so now I will be turning him into a photograph, or taking a picture of him is more accurate. Taking a picture of him and sending it off to be prepared so I can use it for Christmas cards. So this is to honor, hey Dorothy. So this is to honor Clarence, who is the guy that, the first of the 3 dogs that we lost. We lost them all very close together. And so this is to honor our Clarence. And yeah, he's a sweetie. I've already done Muppet. So I've done Muppet many times. This one may be the one that you're the most familiar with. This one is kind of, she's kind of been kind of jacked up a little bit, but this was Muppet. She was a little bit more of a, not quite so much of an illustration, although she had, she did not wear, I know it's surprising, but she didn't wear those red glasses or jewelry. Nor did she have speckles on her. I don't know where the speckles came from. But anyway. And there are many other renditions I've done of her. So I've done Muppet. She's a journal cover. And then we have Pepper, who is a combination of Australian Shepherd and Beagle. I don't know how that worked, but anyway, I may do something with her. I don't know. I prefer to do things that are more illustrative in quality as opposed to photorealism. That way people don't compare as much. Know what I mean, Jelly Bean? Yeah, they're all such good dogs. This is Pepper. It was a particularly cold, this was about a year ago. I'm going to show you this one. This was about a year ago, and it was particularly cold outside. This is the dog that's the Australian Shepherd and Beagle mix, so I've been told. I think she looks more like a German Shepherd, but I don't know. What do I know? She wasn't my dog. Anyway, it was particularly cold, and so she came in and she immediately crashed on the dog bed, and she is sound asleep. And she slept often with her eyes open, so she's there. And this is another picture of her. That's more of her head shape. I don't know how this had so much light on it. Elton took this picture. These are 2 different rooms. And this one I took with my iPhone. That's an Android picture. And so anyway, this is more true of her color. This is more true of her head shape. So, I don't know. She was an old girl. So, I'm going to do something with those. But her name was Pepper Jack. Pepper Jack. Anyway, so I got the illustration of Clarence done. Yeah, so sweet dog, all of them good dogs. And it was funny because I should do things while I tell you this. Yeah, let me get started here, and then I can talk, because otherwise I could sit here and talk forever. Okay, let me make a note as to what I was going to tell you. That way I won't forget it. Okay, that way I won't forget what I was going to tell you. Let's go back to the journal. So the journal here is a journal we've been working on for several weeks, and it is to commemorate the upcoming holidays. So this is ready now. I have sprayed this illustration, this little gnome house. I've sprayed it so it's sealed enough that, and I also edged it around the edge with a marker. I know you can't see that, but I went around the edge with a black marker just so that it doesn't have that white edge quality. Even though it's got a white outline, the edge quality will be, if you catch it, is black. So anyway, that is ready to put in place. So this one is ready for the lettering, which will come, and I think I'm going to use lettering in kind of this style. This was a card that we received in the mail, so I'm probably going to attach it in here in the journal. But I love the way that this is lettered, so I may use that as an example or inspiration for whatever I'm going to put on here. Let's see. Hey Dana, good to see you. This is, we've talked about this. I touched up some of the places on here just with acrylic paint where there was some spots that didn't look very good to me, so I just matched it with acrylic paint and touched it up in a few places. These are napkins. All of this is a single layer of napkins, kind of collaged together, different napkins. This little guy was one that I painted with you. Let's see, what else? This was one we did, finished him up, I think on Monday, wasn't it? I think it was Monday. I love how he turned out. I love his, he just looks like he is up to no good whatsoever, doesn't he? He just looks like he is just, he looks like he's got a big secret. Let's see, what else? This little guy I have base coated, and so he's ready to do the shading and the outlining. I've done that to several of them, so we're going to look through here and see. This guy, isn't he a fat chunk? Look at him. He is a chunk of runk with, I mean, his legs don't match his body, and, you know, so it is what it is. I'm going to let him be what he is. He's one of those, I mean, I've seen people like this. Elton and I were talking about this the other day, and I said, you know, there are people in this world that I see out walking around, and they have the most peculiar shapes. You know what I mean? Peculiar shapes. And somehow they find blue jeans and clothes that fit them. I go shopping and I have the hardest time finding things to fit me. I don't get it. Anyway, this guy is one of those. He's managed to find clothes to fit him, no matter how weird his shape is. We'll keep going here. Here's another one. I've base coated him in. This is bronze, and he's bronze and Bahama blue. That's the color. Hey, Barbara Clark. Ah, good. She pulled them in. Barbara Clark pulled them into Procreate and colored them and printed them. Cool. That's great. Let's see, what else? I have some, 3 other ones I'm going to add. Here's another guy. So these guys are all painted in their base coat. You can see how flat they look. Like this guy, for example, how flat he looks compared to maybe this one. I don't know if you can see the difference. I do, or this one. Once they have the shading and the outlining done, they just look like there's a body inside their clothes, right? This guy just looks like he's just flat, like he's a decal. And let's see, and then over here on I'm just trying to get the main figures that I wanted painted in here. So here's the one that we worked on a little bit on Monday, doing the base coating on him. You can see that I gave him gold mittens and a purple bow for his wreath, which was not what you guys suggested, but that's what I liked. So that's what I did. And I think that may be the last one that I actually base coated in. I think it is. Let's make sure. Yeah, it is. Okay, so I am not going to put these online, the ones I'm going to show you, because these are direct, these are directly from inspiration on, these are directly from Inspiration Online. So these are not changed enough for me to say, yeah, you can, these are inspired by. No, these are directly taken from, even though I've moved pieces around a little bit, these are taken too much directly from online. So I'm not going to put these online, but you can look online and look up Gnomes, and that's basically where what I've taken these illustrations, and I've used these as my direct inspiration. Almost, I would say copied, but they're not exactly copied, but they're close enough that I can't put them up and say you can download them and use them. But you can go look for them yourself. And so there's the other guy. Anyway, I wanted some snow people with some gnomes that looked like they were dressed in knitted hats and things, and that's what I found. So, anyway, you can, so those guys are going to be added in here toward the back. Okay? Okay. I don't know what happened to my, oh, I do know what happened. We're going to add another little paper clip so I keep track of what day is what. Okay, any questions from, they do look different. Yeah, they really do. You add the shading, you add the details, you make it your own. They do look a lot different, for sure. Okay, which one, do you have a preference of which one you'd like to see first? There's a candy cane gnome. There's a fat gnome. Okay, so we got a candy cane gnome, a fat gnome, and I'll work on whichever one you guys want to see first. There is the bronze gnome. This guy is very much like this one. His hat's different, but he is very, very much like, and his beard's a little different. His mustache is a little different. He doesn't have as much of a face, and so he's almost the same as this one. So we'll leave him out of the choices. The other one that I have that's base coated, and we have this one. So this is green hat gnome, and the last one is that I have ready to go is the Santa gnome. Okay. So you guys can choose. So we have candy cane gnome, fat gnome, green hat gnome, or Santa gnome. Which one would you like to see? Starla says candy cane. I'm going to let you guys choose. We'll do the details. And it's possible that we might have time to do more than one. I don't know. Anybody else want to vote? So far, Candy Cane Guy has gotten one vote. Barbara Clark says candy cane. Jones says the Santa. So we have 2 votes for candy cane, 1 for Santa, 2 for Santa. Joan voted, Jane and Joan both want Santa. Dana Wagner wants the fat gnome. So we got 2, 2, and 1. Anybody else want to weigh in? Santa? Okay, we're going to scratch those two, so it's going to be between this one and this one. Oh, now we got 2 for the fat gnome. Everybody does choose different. Okay, let's start here. And then if we have time, we'll go to the Santa. How about that? How about that? Is that okay? Okay, unless I'm not sure that I'm really terrible about saying who I am. I think you all can read my mind. Anyway, I'm Barb. I'm glad you're here. HowToGetCreative.com. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here. Okay, I'm just painting with craft paint. I have done this many, many, many times, and so you are welcome to look back through my channel and find things with acrylic paint. And yeah, you'll find all kinds of ways that I have done this over the years. 3D things like this, they're all done with acrylic paint. And basically, I do it with acrylic craft paint because I have more success, probably because it's what I taught myself to do. I have more success with the craft paint than I have with the paint, the artist grade paint. I don't know why. And I'm drinking a little coffee to keep myself bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Okay. So here we go. We're going to come down to this little guy right here. And I've got to make a little bit more room, and then we'll chat while I paint. Because I can talk to you while I do it and not have to keep up with the chat. So moderators that are here, I appreciate you being here. I'm just using inexpensive craft brushes, okay? Inexpensive. These all come in a pack. There's the blue pack and the orange pack from the craft store, except for this one. This came out of the artist's rack. And this is a script liner, and I think it's a number 1, but you cannot go by the numbers because numbering of brushes is, complex. Alrighty, so I've got my brushes here, and I'm going to get my paints out. Still trying to make myself a little bit more room here. Okay, so there we go. I have a clean pad of paper towels. I have clear water. I don't use anything else. I've tried floating mediums and all kinds of things. I have the best luck with just plain old water. A palette paper. It's a little pad of palette paper that's almost gone. There's not many sheets left. And we're going to start with a clean sheet of palette paper, even though there's still room on this one. We're going to start with a clean piece of palette paper, which is over here to my left. And I may switch position with it, but anyway, we will go for it. Okay, so here we go. He is 100% base coated in just plain old craft acrylic paint. Doesn't matter the brand. To me, whatever brand you want to use is fine to use. And guess what I found in my stash? I couldn't believe it. It was even on my desk. I found another partial bottle of light ivory paint. This one is the closest I had found to that, and this is vintage white. They are still slightly different in color. This is a little bit warmer. Anyway, I was so happy to find that. It's like, who knew that I still had some of that? Anyway, I digress. Okay, let's start with his little face. And his face was base coated in, you guessed it, Santa's flesh, Delta Ceramcoat. This is pronounced Ceramcoat, not cream coat. It's easy to call it cream coat because your mind will flip the letters around. And but it is Ceramcoat. It is a treasure. I gotta go look and see if I can find more of it somewhere. Okay, we're gonna do burnt sienna. This happens to be Americana. My favorite brand of burnt sienna is, you wouldn't think that brand would make too much difference, but it does. And my favorite brand is the Folk Art brand, but I don't have any of it. And so we're going to use what I have, which is Americana, and it works, so it's okay. And then for the cheeks, we are going to use tomato spice in the Ceramcoat. Okay? So I'm going to put a teeny bit of tomato spice out there so you can see them real close together on my palette. I work with two brushes, one to paint with and one to clean up with. So I have two brushes, both of them are angled. And so I will use the better of the two brushes for painting. And I will use the worst of the two brushes. And by that I mean the worst one. You can see how the end has splayed out. That's because paint gets into the metal part of the brush and forces the brushes to spread apart, but it still works as a blending brush. Alright, so it's damp. Alright, and from there I'm just going to go for it, and that's as much explaining as I'm going to do. If you have questions, put them in the chat in all caps. So I load the brush with paint on the side where the long part of the angle is on the brush. Okay, so we're gonna paint. We're gonna paint. Hopefully you can see okay. I'm painting on an angle so that you can see. So I put the shading color in the part of the face which is furthest from the light. And then I use the damp, clean brush, and then I just lightly blend that inner edge. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other little cheek. Anyway, so what I was going to tell you about the dogs, and I will do that while I'm yammering and painting, I will talk. Between Clarence and Pepper, who were Elton's dogs, and Pepper was really old. She was, I think, the oldest of the three. Clarence was the youngest. And I got a call one day from an Amazon delivery. This was a few months ago. All three dogs were here. Muppet was inside because she was deaf. She'd lost her hearing and she didn't see much, and so she was always inside. Could not leave her out. She was used to a fenced-in yard, but she was not used to the invisible fence that's out here. And so I decided she was probably too old for us to try to teach her about the invisible fence. She would have to wear a collar. You know, it's a whole long thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I get a call from the Amazon driver, and it was a woman. She called and she said that she was supposed to make a delivery here, and but she said, could you come to the door and pick up come to my truck and pick up the delivery? And I'm like, well, I would be happy to, except I'm not there. And she says, well, I said, just put it in the mailbox, which is out on the road. And she said, well, we're not allowed to do that, which I think is just, maybe that's true, but that just seems really stupid. To me, that didn't make any sense. And she said, well, I said, are you concerned about the dogs? And she said, well, yes. And I said, well, they're not going to hurt you. They're all old. And she said, well, no, you know. She clearly had had an experience with a dog or dogs that she wasn't very happy about. And I don't blame her. If you're scared of dogs, or if you're scared of being hurt by a dog, you know, I get it. I get it. Okay, I gotta find my paint while that dries a second. Find the color I need, which is this tan color. Here it is. Yeah, she was. And when she told me that they weren't allowed to, sorry, my arm gets in the way here. We're going to use this just kind of, it's called Fawn. It's about gone. I got to get some more. Here we go. So, anyway, bless her heart. Hey, Brenda. Hey, Kathy. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So, anyway. That she wouldn't put it in the mailbox. And I'm telling you, because of her refusal to put the package, which I knew was small, she wouldn't put it in the mailbox, and because of that, it was like a week before we got that package. And it's not like I needed it. It's not like I had to have it, you know? Anyway, it was just kind of crazy. Okay, so now I'm going to shade his little beard. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to use this fawn color. Sometimes I use gray or a warm gray or a soft gray to do that. And I know it's going to be a goofy angle for you guys, but I got to have it where I get the brush at the right angle. So it's going to look upside down to you, but it's right side up for me. Anyway, so yeah, poor dogs. Poor dogs got a bad rap, you know. And another driver ended up delivering it. Oh, this paper is dry. Oh, good gravy, this paper is dry. And it's just sucking the moisture right out of the paint and the brush. So I'm going to have to work a little quicker than I intended to, which means that I got to concentrate on what I'm doing here and not so much on what I'm yammering on about. So right before I was going to come on, I know my arm is across the camera screen or your screen, but I have to do it. I just have to do it. Anyway, so right before I was going to come on with you guys, I went into the kitchen to get a cup of coffee or to start the coffee. I don't know what I was doing. Something that was there by the kitchen window. And well, there's actually a little story that precedes this. So I'll tell that to you first. Elton leaves real early on Fridays. because he has a group that he goes to. It's a group of men that they have like a Bible study or a book study on Fridays. I don't know which one this is because he does something similar on a Wednesday. Anyway, so he was doing that. I'm gonna have to work on that one spot. Bless his heart, his little mustache. You see this right here? All right. See this little blob right here? That's because the paper sucked all the moisture right out of the paintbrush and the paint. And so what that did was stop me from being able to blend that color. So I'm going to have to go back and do damage control there. And that's what you learn when you do this kind of stuff, is you got to learn how to fix your mistakes. And that's okay. It's a good thing to learn. It's a good thing to know how to do. And probably we can fix that just with some white. We'll fix that with some white highlighting probably. And we got to get a little bit of shading under his nose. Anyway, so I'm in the kitchen. Okay, so he's looking more dimensional all the time here. Need a little bit more shading down here by the candy cane. Sometimes I don't see it until I hold it up in the computer and look at it in the monitor. Okay, and then I'm going to put a little bit, and I hope I don't make you guys too dizzy as I flip the book around, but that's just the how of it. So anyway, I'm at the kitchen sink, and I mean, you know how something can just startle you totally? Okay, from nowhere, something drops off the roof, because I'm at the window in the kitchen. Something drops off the roof and lands on the brick ledge, window ledge, outside the window at the exact moment that I step up to the window in the kitchen. I'm telling you, it completely, I mean, startled is not a strong enough word for that. Now, we have been having trouble with possums and raccoons and things, other wild beasts, getting into the garage and causing all kinds of havoc out there. And so my initial quick first thing was that it was a wild animal that had dropped from the roof. No, it was not. It was a black and white cat. His name is Beckett. He's one of the two cats that, he's one of the two cats that the neighbors left when they moved away. Okay? These cats are crazy. I'm going to show you the picture of the one who dropped. This one is the one who dropped from the roof onto the ledge. Plopped right there onto the window ledge, off the roof. I don't know how he did it. Anyway, he did it. He didn't come from below, which would not have, it would have startled me, but not nearly as much as this thing dropping from the sky. So crazy. Anyway, that one is Beckett. Okay. These two, if you don't think they're a bonded pair, whoops, they are definitely a bonded pair of cats. This one that's upside down is Socks, whose leg is on top of Beckett's head. This one is Beckett, the black and white one. He's so funny. They're so funny. Here is a better picture of them so you can see them. Beckett and Socks. Socks got his name because he has 4 white feet. Beckett got his name because the people who had him named him a different name, and we already had a cat with that name. And so we renamed him. They're always smashed up against each other. Yeah, always. They're just the funniest cat. Anyway, so yeah, from the sky, it rained Beckett. Whew, I'm telling you, that cat really did startle me. Let's use a different color green. I want a dark one. Here we go. We're going to use this one. Yeah, he really, really, really startled me. I am here to tell you, that cat. Yeah. Okay, so by now this has had time to dry, and so I'm going to let it, I'm going to move on. Maybe we might, shall we? Let's see. Let me see. Do I have a gray? Yeah, pewter gray. Let me pick up, see if I can get this candy cane. This is pewter gray. So you see, I'm not loyal to one brand of paint. I'll use whatever the color is. And I'm going to go back to my brushes. Now, this is going to be quite tricky because this candy cane's really tiny. But I want you, hopefully, I will be successful at showing you this. So I'll tell you the backstory about the rest of the cat thing from today here in a second. But I got to do this. I have to concentrate on this. So I've loaded the edge with gray and blended it on the palette. And I'm going to come down the side of this candy cane. Now, where this becomes tricky is that this candy cane is so narrow, okay? So very, very, very narrow. And so when you do this, because it's also a round thing, you need to go down both sides of the candy cane, but leave the center part of the candy cane unshaded, and it's very narrow, and so it's real tough to leave that little space in between. And just do the best you can. And I'm using one color for both the white and the red. And normally I don't do that, but this is such a tiny little candy cane that that's what I'm gonna do. And then I'm turning it so I can control the shading coming down the other side of this very narrow space. Like this. But trying very much to leave that center part of the candy cane unshaded, because if you shade the center part of it and the sides, all it does is turn it all one color, and then you lose the illusion You lose the illusion of the rounded candy cane. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So, anyway, this morning, as I was telling you, Elton goes to his group on Friday and also on Wednesday, most Wednesdays. He got ready to leave. It's raining outside. Okay, hopefully you can see. I'm going to hold it still for a minute. Hopefully you begin to get the illusion of a rounded candy cane. And we'll give it a little bit more illusion in a little bit. Okay? Let me see what the question is here. Let me check the chat. Hello, Quilted Jewels. You never liked gnomes until this? I'm so glad. I've painted gnomes for a long time. Yes, we have we have 2 cats, and we have 2 pairs of bonded cats. We have the cats that belonged here, that were here when Elton got them as kittens. And then, so they're a bonded pair. They were litter mates. And then these 2 that were left by the neighbors next door to us, who said they always came and fed them every day and stuff. And maybe they did. But these cats are so social. And so for them, they needed people. And so they decided to move in here. And the neighbors were good with that. And anyway. They have been, these cats are great. Okay, so let's see. Might look for a cat that's been overlooked too long. Yep. That usually the right animals pick you. We're looking for a dog like that, you know, that will pick us. Does the brush have to be angled, or would straight brush also work for this technique? Yeah, you can use the straight brushes. I just happen to like the angled brush because I find that it's more versatile than just a flat brush. Oh, I'm making mandalas. That's good. Oh, that's so neat. I'm so glad. That's great. That's great. Okay, what was I going to tell you? Okay, so anyway, I'll tell you while I'm stopped. So Elton leaves early to go to these things. So, you know, and sometimes I wake up and get up with him. Today I didn't. I knew he was leaving. He told me goodbye. He's leaving. And he opens the door, and it's raining out. Both cats, Beckett and Socks, charged in. And all I heard was an expletive. And he called them, it was something like "you brats," but it was preceded with an expletive, which I woke up and I thought, I should probably go see what's going on. And then I thought, I think I'm too tired. Okay, so I think, got both of them and threw them outside. Gently, I'm sure. He was in a hurry. Put them back out. He didn't throw them. He put them back out. And the next thing I know, he's ready to leave. He opens the door and they both charge in again. At that point, I think he got one. I think he got Beckett and put him back out. Socks, on the other hand, ran into the living room to hide. And then Elton came in, and, you know, it amazes me how... Anyway, I won't say that. And he came in and he said, "Do you care if I leave the cat in?" I'm sound asleep. I'm like, And by that time that he had gathered up his stuff again to leave, Socks had in fact come in and planted himself on the bed, and he snuggled up then. from then until I got up an hour or so later. But in the meantime, there were a couple of choice words that were expressed by Elton as he's going to his group, and I'm just cracking up because I'm thinking, well, I wonder. Yeah. Anyway, you can fill in the rest of the story. It was pretty funny. Anyway, Socks totally enjoyed being the only cat. Even though he is bonded to Beckett, he totally enjoyed being the only cat and got to snuggle on the bed. And yeah, it was funny. Oh my goodness, that was funny. Elton was not a happy camper. Okay, so what I have is a larger brush because I'm in a larger area. And this is a dark green of some kind. If your paint is dragging and making skippy marks, then you got to put a little more water in it. I find it easiest to do this with short pulls and then come back with a brush that's just damp and then clean up that inner edge so that it doesn't dry with a big stripe, because it will. If you don't blend that, it will dry with a big stripe on the inside edge, and then you got damage control to do. And it's not that you can't. It's not that you can't do it. Some people use a mop brush to blend it. A mop is a very soft brush. That works too. I just find that having the wet brush, which is not dripping, it's just slightly wet, I find it easier to handle. And I continually reload that brush with fresh paint and continue on. Sometimes it is really hard for me to talk and do this at the same time. So anyway, next time you guys see Elton in the chat, you're going to have to give him trouble. Give him a little trouble about his inability to wrangle cats early in the morning. Now maybe he should start sooner in the day so that he has time to allow for cat wrangling, don't you think? Oh goodness, it did make me laugh. So, you know, it's good to start out the morning with a laugh, don't you think? Now, if you are going to go back and add additional shading, which I just did where the tail of the hat went into the pom-pom, got to let the first coat dry before you do that. All right, now I'm going to show you, I think I've shown you this before, but right over here, there's this little hump in the part which is the innie part. If you make like a little tornado shape, fat out at the edge and skinnier as it moves into the hat, that will help you achieve the little fold in the hat. See where it folds into the, and sometimes you got to do it more than once. Okay, that's not perfect, so we'll get it again. And I don't strive for perfection, but I'll probably have to do it again just so I can get it to be a little darker, and then I'm going to match it over here. Okay, see that little kind of tornado shape, and then I'm going to blend the sides of it before it dries, hopefully, with the damp brush. Okay. And sometimes you just have to play around with it until you get what you like. Or you look at it and you go, you know, I'm being way too picky about this and I'm not going to worry about it, but I'm trying to show you, so therefore I'm going to go after it again. What we're doing is trying to get a pleated, kind of a pleated kind of effect. It's kind of getting there. And other times I look at it and I go, oh, for heaven's sakes, Barb, quit being so picky about this area. But you know, sometimes I just want to achieve the effect of his little hat kind of being kind of floppy, right? We'll let it go at that. It's good enough. It's good enough. This is just a silly little illustration in this journal. It does not need to achieve any kind of perfection. Okay, blue, his little blue jacket, I may just shade it with the gray because that's what's here. That'll be easy. It's what's on my palette. Let's see if this will go, if this is dark enough. So I have left little cracks in the paint between his arm and the body of his jacket. The shading always goes on. Slopped it up on his arm. The shading always goes on the part that's behind. Okay. All right. Let me keep going here, and I really am trying to keep it where you guys can see what I'm doing. Normally, the damp brush is in my mouth, and the shading brush is in my hand, but it's very hard for me to talk when I have a brush in my mouth. Okay, so there is the little under part of his coat. Let's go to the other side because we don't want to spend all day on this. And the shading is what fills in what little crack there is between his arm and his jacket front. But you have to be able to, like, you can't put in all of the shading on the little jacket and then go back and shade it. You can't do that. If you do that, it's gonna be dry and you're not gonna be able to get it. All right, this part in here is gonna mostly go dark because that's also where his little jacket front is. And then I'm going to do hopefully a lighter coat of the shading, or not. Sometimes it's not. Acrylic craft paint is not always controllable. Sometimes it has a mind of its own. But I want his sleeve to look like it goes around his body. And then I want a little bit up here at his shoulder. And around by his mitten, okay? Once the outline goes on, it will make a difference too. All right, over here on this side, we're going to do the same thing here. So this is going to be the part that is the front of his jacket. And under his beard. So this definitely takes on the darker tone, because it's furthest away from the light. You see the difference in this sleeve and this one? All right, let me finish this up. Finish up his jacket sleeve here. And then I will look at the chat again, okay? I'm twisting my hand around a little bit so that I don't have to flip the book maybe quite as much. Okay. All right. In the spot, this is just general rule as far as shading goes. In the place that is the darkest, which is going to be right here under his arm, sometimes I will come back and shade that again. But the rule is it has to be dry before you can add another coat of shading. If it's not dry, when you go to put another application of paint on top of it, it'll just simply take off what you did where you put that to begin with. Okay? All right, so we have him all shaded except for his mittens and his little shoes and his pants. Let's do his little mittens. And we have dark green on the palette, so we're just going to shade with that. I'm going to have to go down to a smaller brush. So we're going to go back to the smaller brushes I had in my hand a minute ago. Pick up that dark green that I used on his hat. Let me do his mittens and then I'll check the chat, okay? So he has one mitten that is under the other one. So this one back here is underneath and you don't see the whole hand. And I'm going to put a little bit of this dark green where his mitten would kind of go into his sleeve or over his sleeve or whatever. Okay. And then the other mitten is going to come right where his sleeve is and around a little bit on the bottom side, like so. And then I'm going to bring hopefully a lighter color, so not so dark with the green, around the top where his fingers are and down to kind of separate his little thumb. Okay, hopefully you see that. It'll clear up even more once we get the outlining going, but that separates his mittens from each other. I'm being a little pickier with this, showing it to you all because I'm trying to semi-teach you how to do this. Okay, he's looking dapper. Good. Having a laugh makes the day much better. Those wet cats were probably a mess. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. And it was funny. I did laugh. I thought it was hysterically funny. I really did. Okay, we're going to use some black down here on his shoes. I didn't let him know I was laughing, but, you know, he probably knows by now. Although, I think he's working today, so he's not supposed to work on Fridays. That's supposed to be his day off. But, yeah, I think he's working today. He's behind. And the holidays also always make life more challenging for him. Okay, I picked up some black on the same thing, edge of the brush. I'm going to put some black at the bottom of his shoe just to kind of indicate a sole on his shoe or something. I'm not going to worry too much about much detail down here. I just want a little bit of black down here for the sole of his shoe. I don't know that you can even see that. The one shoe is better than the other, so we'll go again on the right, as I look at it, the right shoe. Okay, and this one, as it's dried, the left one, as I look at it, as it's dried, has faded out, so I'm going to put a little bit more. It just helps to give the feet some shape and not just flat. All right, I'm going to come behind his shoes with the black. This brush is a little big for this area. The trick with shading in a tiny area like this is not to turn the area that you're shading completely one color. And because this is such a tiny little area, we're only going to shade right next to his shoes. If these were bigger legs, I would shade more in this area, but they're tiny little guys. It's tiny shapes. Easier said than done to get in there. Okay, and so it did not, believe it or not, did not turn it all black, although it may look to you like it did. Okay? All right. Now, what I want to do here, his cheeks don't look very rosy to me, so I'm going to give his little cheeks, if I can get my paint. Here is my tomato spice paint, which is skinned over. So there we go. I just need to get some of that paint exposed again, so I can dip the corner in the tomato spice and blend it so it's got a nice little blendy edge. And then I'm going to come on top of the shading area again and see if we can just make his little, maybe I didn't do it the first time. That could be, that might be why they didn't look very rosy, because maybe I didn't even do it. That could be the case. See, I get to talking and I forget. Now he's going to be a little pinked up. That's better. He's out where it's cold. He's got to have some rosy cheeks. Okay. To decorate, let's decorate his hat just a little bit. Just for grins and giggles. And then we will decorate also. I'm going to go ahead and do that to his beard. And yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and just add some fun stuff, okay? The shading really brings him to life. It does. It really does. It makes him three-dimensional. Let me show you from the overhead camera, which will give you maybe a little more true perspective of him. So what we're after is for him to look three-dimensional, like he has a body inside of his clothes instead of just this flat thing, which is like this, for example. You see how flat the chunky guy looks? He's just flat on the page. When you do the shading on them, they have a distinctly more three-dimensional look. Okay, so that is the reason for doing that. Okay, I even do it in the carvings. This is a carving that Clausman did, my husband who passed away. He was a wood carver, so this is a wood carving that he did. Yeah, this one's wood. And even with these, even though they were dimensional, now his beard and his hat have not been shaded. I've only done his face on this. The shading is really important to bring out the shape. So, yeah. You just want to go squeeze his little cheeks, don't you? Yeah. Maybe we'll go to this camera. You might be able to see this a little bit better over here now, since we've got the shading done. Oh, I'm out of room on my space. You know how it is when you start working on stuff. You just end up painting yourself into a little 12-inch square box. Yeah. So I'm just trying to get myself situated here just a little bit. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so here's our little guy. And so what I'm going to do is, let's start with his hat. And on his hat, let's try putting some of this pearlescent turquoise, Lumiere pearlescent turquoise. Let's see if this has, I don't know if this has enough, if it's wet enough. Nope, it's not. Let me get another metallic color, just a second. Some of these days I'm going to have to replenish all of my paints because many of them are not in very good shape anymore. All right, this color is Metallic Blue Topaz by Folk Art. And so let's just for fun, let's just polka dot his hat. This one's not in great shape either. We're just going to put a few little polka dots here and there. I'm just using a stylus to polka dot his little hat. Okay, so we polka dotted his hat, and maybe we'll polka dot his mittens also. We're going to use a tinier stylus. Bye, Joan. Good to see you. Have a good weekend. We'll put a few little polka dots on his little mittens. Okay, so he and sometimes, you know, sometimes I don't do such a good job on the polka dots, which I didn't there. Sometimes you can get them back off. The top mitten's okay, the bottom one is crappy. And if you do that and clean off the ones that you don't like, let it dry, and then you can come back and polka dot them again. Okay. For his little beard, I think I'm going to leave his jacket plain the way it is. But his little beard and mustache, I want to detail those just a little bit more. Oh, thanks, Barb. So I'm going to use white, just plain white, okay? I'm going to use the script liner, which is, white paint, script liner, and paint and water, and turn the white into ink consistency. I roll out the brush. And then we're going to give him some white. Sorry, I'm trying to get my book where you can see it. Okay. And so then we're going to just give him some white indicators of beard. That'll clean up with the outline. You can do this kind of thing with like Posca pins and things like that also, but I find that it works better for me with the brush because I can get the ends of the hairs to have a little more tapered look. So okay, good enough. And his little hat up here, pom-pom, we're just gonna just dab in a little bit of white in the brightest part, the fattest part of the little pom-pom, and then clean brush, and then just dabble a little bit so that it doesn't look like it's a spotlight in the middle of his little pom-pom, but it might still look a little spotlight-ish. So I'll break it up a little bit. Okay, and it's going to be good enough. Okay, I need to put a couple little, try to control the polka dots this time down here on his other little mitten. Let's see if we can do it. On the underneath mitten. Okay, that's good enough. All right, that's better. And up here on his hat, I'm going to put just a couple little, okay. Sometimes you see holes in the, see spaces that don't make sense. And it's like, oh, that's because that would have a little polka dot there. Okay? All right. And so we're going to call him Shaded and Decorated. Enough. Now, I do need to give him ground to stand on because he is currently floating in the air, and that's never good, right? And so I'm going to put a little bit of burnt umber on my palette. So a little burnt umber. That's way more than I need. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm using a bigger brush. And blending on my palette. But I really want this blended out. I do not want a stripe of color. So let's see how we do. Again, a damp brush that's plain. And then there's the bottom of the book. And so now you got to do this when you're straight, hopefully. All of this is dry down here. And let that just blend into nothing, okay? And that will just give him something to stand on. Otherwise, he floats, and that's not good. We don't like floating gnomes unless they're supposed to be, okay? All right. Questions? Anybody questions? Okay, I don't see anything. And hi, Connie. Anybody that I didn't say hello to, I'm so glad you're here. When I'm doing this part, I got to concentrate on this, so I don't get to see the chat a whole lot. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. All right, let's give him a little shot of heat from a heat tool. Okay, when you do this, keep the heat tool moving. Don't get it down too close to the surface. If you do, you're going to bubble the paint. All right, let's hope that that's dry. I think so. Okay, I'm going to go to an 01 or an 02. Either one of those will work fine. And we're going to do the outlining on him, okay? That's what really sharpens everything up. So we're going to zoom out a little bit. Okay, there he is. So far, so good. And now you have a choice about your outlining. Do you want to make the outlines perfect? Do you want to make them sketchy? How do you want to make them? And so I go for sketchy. You also need to have a piece of paper available to clean off your pen tip every so often, because if you don't, you are going to ruin these little fine pointed pins. Okay, sketchy little pom-pom at the end of his hat. It's okay if the outline is not right against the colorful shape. You can always come back and touch it up a little bit. And I may do it one way one time and a totally different way another time. I know I'm quiet. This part does take a little bit of just kind of letting it kind of got to let it happen, but also concentrate a little bit. Okay, and then which one is this? This is the O1. Okay, and so now I'm gonna do his little candy cane. All right, and then I'm going to drop down to the 005, which is the teeny tiny little nib. Okay. And then I'm going to come back to my white. And I'm going to load up my script liner again with white. All right, I'm going to give, because I really do like the little highlights. I don't do it on all of them. And I don't do them the same intensity on all, even when I do it. But I like having a little shine on his cheeks. And then on your candy cane, I'm going to pick one side. And just put a few little white marks on there. And that will dry, and that will help it look like it's a little shinier and a little more rounded. And so there is our finished little guy. You're all quiet watching the process. I get quiet too, right? Okay, let's give it a little bit of heat tool. Make sure that it's dry. And then I can come back, and if I missed anything, like here I can see I missed a little part of his little jacket. And the other thing you can do is you can add more details. Like his jacket seems really quite bland to me, and so I'm thinking that I might want to, I don't know, I may let him sit. Instead of doing anything to him. I was thinking about putting some decoration on his little sleeves, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think? I think I might. I think I have to. Okay, I'm going to use some of this dark, the forest green, which is not as dark as the shading green. Okay, so let's put a little bit of this forest green here, because I feel like I need to. I do. Okay, so it just needs a little jacket, just a little detail, and maybe little detail at the bottom, the hem of his little jacket. And feeling like I need a little bit of red. Where'd my red go? Way too much red, but nonetheless, we're gonna and then come back with this little bit of red, bright red. Like it's a little bit of trim. Okay, so now he has a little bit of trim on his little jacket, so he looks a little more, to me, he looks a little more decorative like he should, right? All right, let's give it some heat. And then we'll do a little bit on either the fat Santa. I won't have time to be able to finish either one, or the fat gnome or the Santa gnome. So put in the chat which one you want. Okay. Hey, Julie. Oh, you were here. I think I already said hi to you. So as the acrylic paint dries a little bit, the colors change a little bit, then you may have to come back and do a little bit more on it if you need, but I think we're going to call it good. Okay. Which one would you like? We'll call that one done. At least done for now. Actually, though, nothing is totally done. If I want to come back and do more to these, I will, because that's just how I roll. Nothing is ever in stone done. Okay, do you want to do this one, or do you want to do the one back here? Which would you like me to start on? This one or this one? The fat one. Bye, Starla. Go rest your head. Rest your head. Do you want the fat one or the Santa one? We'll only get to start it because I'm going to have to leave a little early. Fat one. Peggy says fat. Anybody? All right, we'll do the fat one. That was the only vote I got. Peggy wins. Okay, we're going to put a wax paper on that just in case there's anything that's a little damp. He will be protected. Okay. So we now have this little fat guy. I'm just going to try painting under this camera. We'll see how this goes. Sometimes my hand gets in the way, but we'll go for it and see how it works. Fluffy sounds better. Probably so. Fluffy sounds better. He's actually beyond fluffy. He is a chunk of runk. Okay, let's get a couple of brushes here. Here we go. Sometimes my brushes roll underneath my the little thing that my book is on. This came from back when I put the backgrounds on the pages, and I keep trying to take it off. It won't come off. Okay. All right, hopefully you can see him okay there. Alrighty, his jacket is painted in gold here, and I think what we're gonna do, I'm going to leave his beard and stuff alone because you've seen that. Let's work on his costume, what he has on. So for his little hat and jacket and all that, I'm looking for my paint color here. Goodness, it was here. Sorry, guy. Here it is. Okay. We're going to see if we can make it show up with some burnt sienna, and I'm going to use a little bit of burnt umber because I think we'll have to use both in order for the red for it to show up on the red. So what I have done is I've put burnt sienna and burnt umber together side by side, and so I will pick up those two colors and blend them on the palette. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to pick up burnt sienna, burnt umber. The burnt sienna will make the burnt umber lighter, but the burnt umber will give the burnt sienna a little more depth. So let's see how that works. Yeah, no, that's going to be too light. So we're just going to go, and sometimes that's what you have to do. You just have to try. So we're going to go straight burnt umber, the dark brown. Yeah, you just have to try things and see what's going to show up. Okay, you have to reload the brush. I start with a clean brush most of the time, so I'll clean out the brush and reload. Anytime you are doing shading, make sure that you do not turn sharp corners with your shading. Always keep the inner edge of a shaded area rounded. Oh, so I had a funny thing. It's another Elton story. He is just endless fodder. yesterday he took a shower and he dried his ear out with a Q-tip. Problem being that when he pulled the Q-tip back, the stem of the Q-tip out from drying his ear, there was no cotton on the end of it, which indicated that he had lost the cotton in his ear, right? Which immediately makes me go, oh no, that's not good. And so the question becomes, could you look in my ear and see if you can see it? Yeah, well, I said, sure, I'll take a look. However, I don't have X-ray vision. So needless to say, I couldn't see anything. And I said, you're going to have to go someplace and get that looked at, because that's not good. Okay, so we've gone around his little hat, and that's good enough. Good enough. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to work on his chubby little bum here. So he called his doctor, and he went in the afternoon, and I'm saying, can't you tell any difference in the way that you hear? He said, I can't hear very well anyway. Which is true. He doesn't have the sharpest of hearing. And so anyway, that would have made me instantly crazy to have something stuck in my ear. Didn't seem to affect him a whole lot. So anyway, he goes to the doctor in the afternoon. I don't know how he made it through the day, but he did. He goes to the doctor in the afternoon, and of course I'm concerned about him, and so finally, I'm waiting all day long for him to let me know what they said about him. And so finally in the afternoon, I have waited, so I finally sent him a text, and I said, did you get anybody to look at your ear? To which he says, I'm there now. So I'm like, okay, good. So a few minutes later, he sends me a text back, and he said they couldn't find the cotton nor my brains. So there's nothing in there whatsoever. So no cotton and no brain. There you go. That's the report. So apparently, somehow it must have come out. The only thing we can come up with. Anyway, that was great though. Only Elton would come up with that. No cotton, no brains. There's nothing in there. He's an endless amount of fodder for my stream. Just endless amount of entertainment for us, don't you think? Okay, so I'm just shading around all the red parts of his little costume here. Filling in the crack between the various parts of legs and body and that kind of stuff. And if you're responding to me in the chat, I can't read it right now. I will be back to read it. Yeah. And then at one point he says, later in the day, he said, well, is there any chance, do you think that that could have just gone on, I guess he thinks it's a pipe, gone on down and just disappeared? I'm like, no, the ear isn't like that. It wouldn't have done that. I said if it went far enough, it would be pushing on your eardrum. And you would know that. You would absolutely know that. Anyway, yeah, that's... Crazy Elton. No cotton, nor brains. There you go. Now you know the rest of the story. Endless source of fodder for the stream audience. He's always willing to take one for the team. Okay, hopefully that's got most of the red shaded around there. I'm gonna, since I have the dark brown, I'm gonna use that and shade the bottom of his shoes here, or his feet. Let's come around the bottom of his little feet. Okay, so he's got a little shading on his little feet there. While I'm here, I'm going to try this. I don't know how effective this is going to be, but I have this bright red out that I used to polka dot and do some stuff on the one before. I'm just going to pat in the middle fat part of his little hat some of this bright red. Because what I want to do is just kind of brighten his hat up a little bit. His hat was pretty dark. And then I want to do something similar. I'm going to do something similar down here to his little legs. Just patting a little bit of that bright red into the middle of his legs. The outline will make his legs appear better. I mean, they'll show up better with the outline, but I just wanted to get those legs to show up a little bit more. And I'm going to do something similar here to the flower, the poinsettia. I've played with this poinsettia a couple of times because the color didn't suit me. It still doesn't suit me, quite honestly. So I may just have to wait until I outline it, and then it will perk up and look better. Okay, and we're going to leave it alone. I know you're supposed to put your elbow in your ear and that's all, but Elton won't pay attention to that. Dorothy's stitching gnomes, but she keeps getting sidetracked. I'm so sorry. I did keep a pretty straight face. Not entirely, but pretty straight. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. Let us see if we can quickly. I've got paint out. I just want to see if I can finish up. I won't get him outlined, but I want to see if I can finish shading this little guy. Okay, so we've got his little shading around his little nose. And let's see if we can shade his little jacket real quick. I don't know if this color is going to be the color. Sometimes you just have to try things and see if you get the color the color that you want it to be. And that's not dark enough, so we're going to have to go to a different color. But since I have some paint on my palette here, I painted his little jacket Emperor's Gold. Alright, he has little mittens, and I painted them citron green, which is, I just love that color, but it's really not a super good color for using in this journal. So we're going to use a green to shade it, so that it will put more green into his little mittens. But we'll get there, maybe not today, but we'll get there. Okay, that little arm inside of his body is in pretty good shape there, so we're going to come over here and see if we can whip this in. Okay. Yeah, it's alright. It's okay. Alright, let's see if we can finish this up. I'm picking up speed here, folks, so if I stop talking, it's just because I'm trying to get this done. I know, I'm probably making you guys all a little queasy with how much I'm flipping the book back and forth, which I don't mean to do to you. Okay, there's his little arm coming around his mustache. And then he has a little bend in his arm here, which we're going to pick up with the outline as much as anything, because it's kind of drawn at a goofy angle. And I have no one to blame for that goofy angle but myself. Let's try to reshape that a little bit. Okay, let's see if we can reshape that. That's a little better. And I'm going to come around with his forearm just a little bit more. And a little bit more where his little mitten is. Okay. Like I said, I have no one to blame on his misshapen arm but myself. Okay, we're going to call it Wrinkles in his costume. And we'll make it work. We will make it work. Okay, let's, this one needs a little bit more here. Okay. Let's shade his little mittens real quick, and then I really do have to take off. So I'm going to use this green that I have on my palette that's still marginally good. The forest green. All right, here we go. It's going to come up around the poinsettia. And then I'm going to shade that or blend that so it doesn't get too out of control. And then I'm going to come around the fat part of his hand here where his fingers are. And then where it touches his sleeve. So basically the outer edge of his little mitten. And that will help make his mittens a little greener and not quite the color of pea soup. Okay. So that will make his little mittens a little bit greener, which that's what I was after, because I didn't want them to be quite that anemic green. All right, now one other thing that I want to do that I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, I'm going to try it with this bright red. We'll see. And that is to tint his nose and give it a little rosier color. Yeah, that color is going to be okay. That's good. Okay, good enough. The only thing I have left to actually tint on here is, or shade, is his beard and mustache. That's going to have to wait. But I am going to give him ground to sit on. So we're going to do that real quickly here because we've got the color out on the palette. Alright, now his bottom is going to be back here, so we got to shade back here. Otherwise, he is going to want to fall off the edge of whatever. So that when something is sitting on a surface, you got to make sure that you give it enough area to sit on. If you don't, it's going to just feel like it just wants to fall off the surface, the table, the page, whatever. Okay? And this can always be darkened later, but at least it gives him a little place to plant. Otherwise, he wants to fall right off. Okay? He is a butterball, isn't he? Okay, that's gonna do it for us today. So let's go back and look at the other guy. So here's our other little guy that we did earlier. I think he looks kind of cute. I like the trim on his jacket. That needed to happen. And his little candy cane. And then here's our little fat boy, our little butterball turkey boy. And so he's going to have a little ways to go to get finished, but he's close. We're getting there. Okay? All right, I got to clean out some brushes. And I got to scoot. So, having said that, thank you all for being here. I'll be back on Monday. And Butterroll Boutique, hello, good to see you. I'll be back on Monday at 7 Eastern, and we'll probably just keep working in this and painting gnomes, just because I'm not going to start anything new until after Thanksgiving. Okay? I'll see you later. Thank you for being here. As always, remember to get creative today because you know it's easy, and I will see you before you know it. Bye for now.